Hello and welcome to the Film Club podcast. I am Re-Animator. Joining me as usual is MizzeeOH
Hello.
and our special guest, General Lotz.
E.
Yeah.
I mentioned E.
Yeah. So today we are going to be talking about Stanley Kubrick's sci-fi epic 2001: A Space Odyssey, a movie that is notorious for having very polarized opinions, which is pretty much what's going to be happening tonight.
Exactly.
Now, Now, in past podcasts, we've had mutual agreements about the film at hand, but we all have three very different opinions. So it should lead to some very interesting discussion. So how about before we get started, we just take turns and give our general feel about the movie, starting with you, John.
Well, I have to say it's really not very good. First and foremost, the big problem with 2001 is everybody said it was good, so everybody believed it was good, and as time has gone on, it sort of wormed its way into the collective consciousness as to the fact that it's good, even if you haven't actually seen the movie. So what I'm saying is, people think it's good only because other people have said it's good.
Yes, but in that thinking, the original people had to say it was good for a certain reason.
Yes, but at the time when it came out, it had very mixed reviews, so it sort of spread as some sort of cinematic disease almost.
All right, what about you, Opal?
Well, I saw this for the first time a few years ago when I was much, much younger, and I didn't really completely understand it back then, but I still liked it just because I thought it was very interesting. So I just finished rewatching it, and I have to say I actually like it more than I did years ago. Much to the dismay of John, I'm sure. But I think the main reason why some people don't like it is just because they don't really completely understand everything there is to understand about it, and I don't, but it's also, like a lot of people say, sort of a work of art as well as a movie. So
Explain the blank screen. Go.
well, Graham has to give his opinion, so no, shush. You go, Graham, you go. So there.
Okay, 2001 has a lot of great things going for it, but it also has its problems that really bog it down for me. Like, to me, 2001 is a landmark in filmmaking. Like, you have to keep in mind, this was made in 1968. This was, like, way before CG or anything like this. And, I mean, physically and visually, this is, like, an incredibly astounding film. From the cinematography to the camera work, it just looks absolutely amazing. But my main problem is that it's slow, it's long, and there are long periods of time where nothing of real importance happens, or sometimes nothing at all. And I don't really buy into the whole thing about being some metaphysical symbol of the universe. I think all the symbolism is very vague and obscure, which is why this movie has been so polarizing.
But a lot of things are supposed to be kind of vague and obscure. Such as the black screen, which I have an explanation for.
Well, I would like to hear it.
All right, let's take this one chip at a time, guys.
Well, personally, I think since a lot of the movies, basically a timeline of the universe, the blank screen was the creation of the universe. So, yeah.
If it's all right, but once again, that's the creation of the universe. Why does it have to go on for 3 minutes with wildly discordant music?
It takes a long time to create the universe.
I know, but see, here's the problem, though. We're talking about a movie here. We're talking about a moving picture when there's a blank screen and just music.
A movie about the universe. So when
Yeah,
it
but-
makes sense if it started with the creation of the universe.
Well, let's look at it from let's take it to the title, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, the creation of the universe is not an odyssey, yes, it takes place in space, but it's not an odyssey.
An odyssey does take place later on, though, because he goes through the trip. Do you remember the colored tunnel?
Yeah, it's more of an odyssey of space in many respects.
And it is
but
an odyssey through space and time.
But here's the problem, though. It's still a blank screen, and that does not a movie create. I mean, if we're going to say that everything has a meaning...
If I can butt in for a sec, I'm going to have to side with John on this one. I mean, there are some moments where watching the stuff float in space is really good and it's very atmospheric. But the problem with it goes on for way too long, and after a while, it just gets kind of old.
I understand that. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of slow points to the movie, but
and there are a lot of points where absolutely nothing happens. It's just stuff floating in space.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, towards the beginning, I understand that, like, later in the movie that didn't necessarily need to happen, but towards the beginning of the movie, like, directly after the part with all the apes and such, and showing that whole beginning segment, was also to show how people had evolved.
Okay. Alright, I do kind of understand what Kubrick was trying to do with the slow pace. It was trying to show the progression of time as a big picture. But like John said, from a movie point, it gets pretty old pretty fast, and after a while, you're just waiting for something to happen. I mean, there are moments when the slow pacing is appropriate, but I think Kubrick kind of takes it and rams it into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that sometimes it is a bit too slow, but I didn't really mind this that much.
Well, here's another problem. Here is the big problem with taking everything to a metaphysical level. That basically means that there really needs to be almost no skill or no real substance to anything because it's you, the viewer, giving it substance. So basically, we could take an entire movie about looking at a recycling bin, and that could be the metaphysical picture of the year because it's what you take to it. That doesn't necessarily
ambiguity.
When you're actually supporting a black screen, you can support anything.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm just taking it in stride with the rest of the movie. I think with the rest of the movie, it being a sort of timeline of the universe, it makes sense what I said.
Well, I can have a timeline of trash and start with the recycling bin.
If you're gonna make a movie about the timeline of trash, then yeah, sure, start with the recycling bin. That fits.
But that's not good, though. That's not...
It fits, though, with the movie. It doesn't matter. Of course it would be not good in another movie. Like, if you just jammed it into, I don't know, Star Wars. Sure, it would not fit, but with that movie, it does, because that's what the rest of the movie is.
Yeah, but that still doesn't make it good, though. Just because something fits does not a good movie create. That's really my main complaint. If you find a blank screen metaphysically important, then that means you can find anything metaphysically important, thus eschewing any effort on the part of anyone, essentially.
He's got a point.
I could point the camera at a wall, and that would be metaphysically important.
No. It would
Well, it depends on the context.
Exactly. What's the rest of your movie going to be about? Because if it's just pointing a camera at a blank wall, then no.
Well, then again, I could make a movie about drywall, then.
Okay, fine. Then yes, you should include lots of shots of walls. So yeah, there.
That's still not a good movie, though.
It still fits with the movie, though, and you know what? If someone wants to watch a movie about drywall, then that's a good movie for them. So...
How about you show a bunch of walls with different wallpaper?
Well, we could do that, and I bet that would win Picture of the Year. It's really kind of almost the same concept as the modern-day Tree of Life, where there's virtually no plot.
No. Tree of Life tried to be 2001, but it failed completely.
I'd almost say it succeeded in many respects because it didn't try to be a movie. It tried to just be a thing.
Yes, it did. It did try... You can't say that. You haven't seen Tree of Life. It did try to be a movie. There was this whole segment in the middle of the movie with the stupid-ass family, and them trying to make a plot with that, but it failed. Because it had 40 minutes of nothing.
2001 at least tries to be a movie, but it fails at that because there is, in some respects, a plot from the beginning to the end, whereas in Tree of Life, it's just random pictures and bits of scenery. 2001 attempts at being a movie, but fails at that, and that's what we're judging it on. We're not judging it on just, is it a thing? We're judging it on a movie.
All right, I got a little point to make. Uh, like I said earlier, 2000, what 2001 lacks in substance, so to speak, just roll with it. It really makes up for in visuals. Like this seems like the kind of movie that is meant to be seen in a theater, or at least on a large screen with a good surround sound or something like that. If you see it like that, it would probably be a whole different experience than just watching it on your TV.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very visual movie. Even the way it's shot is it relies very much on the visuals.
What else from Kubrick?
Exactly.
I would still disagree with most, if not all, but one part. The visuals look good, but it's nothing really eye-catching. You have 5 minutes of a ship landing. That looks good the first 2 minutes, but by the time it finally lands, it's just enough already.
Okay, I agree with that part, but you have to keep in mind, this was made in 1968, and like I said before, this is a landmark in special effects and modeling and camera work. Back then, people's minds were like absolutely blown. Like you could say this was back then what Avatar was today from a visual standpoint.
And in many respects, it's just as boring, except you don't have pretentious blue people. But no matter how good the effects are, your movie cannot just be pointing the camera at this great model for 20 minutes, because it gets old.
And that I agree on. I mean, I know that good visuals alone a good movie does not make. And
that. Yeah, but it doesn't just point the camera at ships alone. It shows the crew or the planets or stuff.
There's no planets, and
but it shows every single solitary step. It tries to convey in 20 minutes what could be summed up in 3. Like at the beginning. And like I said, because of this, the pacing is like incredibly slow, and it makes it really hard to sit through. Like the first act with the apes, when they first see the monolith, that was only like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. When I first saw it, it felt like 45.
I agree that this part was definitely a bit slow. Like, got a little bored with that part.
I mean, if you want to know where
past that part, it picks up.
All right. Yeah, but it seems like an awful lot to get through just to get to the good part. Like, you want to know where I think the movie gets really good? At the third act with the Jupiter mission, when Hal starts trying to kill everyone.
And that's what everybody says.
Oh, I think
Hal
that's
is the only thing anyone remembers from this movie.
No, they also remember how it shot, the legendary effects for that time. But yes, Hal is the most notable and best thing about the movie, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if they just made it about a space crew and a homicidal supercomputer, I'd be fine with it. But I feel kind of jaded that I have to sit through like 45, 50 minutes of shit floating in space just to get through that. Mm-hmm. Like, if you shaved off all the time where you just see still shots, the movie would probably be like around maybe not even an hour long.
And it really would be better for it, just because you have things on screen does not a good movie create. Less is indeed more. Going back to the apes.
It's also how you show these things.
Yeah, but the apes is the best example. They're trying to show prehistoric humanity, how we have evolved from that, but still keep some of those traits. Okay, that is a good way to convey it, but it takes too long. That scene should have been 5 minutes. Everybody would have understood it, and it would have actually been, I'd almost say, entertaining. People will take away from that. But when you draw it out to 20 minutes, people stop paying attention because we get it already. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's really some of this whole movie.
I understand that, and I agree with that to an extent.
All right, let's talk about Hal for a minute. So, like we said before, most people think that the movie really doesn't start kicking into high gear until the Jupiter mission. And what everybody says is that Hal is the best part of the movie because he is a very interesting character, and I think he's the one symbol that everybody, most everybody can agree on about how he's a symbol of like how far we've come and like what we could become, and about the dangers of like technology. And like I have like a whole laundry list of symbols that he represents, but yeah, you get the idea.
I mean, you have to at least agree, John, that Hal was really awesome.
Well, he may have been awesome, but what a lot of people don't realize is he's only in the movie for a very short time. He barely qualifies as a character for just his on... If you count up the number of minutes he's on screen for probably less than 10 minutes.
No.
Nah,
I don't
I
know.
wouldn't say that.
A half an hour.
That's being very generous. One or two words does not count as full scene
I think
with
he
him.
said
But
a lot.
the fact is,
No,
he
he had
barely counts
never.
in the whole movie as a whole. I mean, if he's in the movie for 30 minutes, you've got a 2.5 hour movie. That's still 2 hours of non-Hal.
Yes, but he was still a huge, important character.
Yeah,
True.
exactly. I mean, you don't have to be on screen from start to finish to be an important character. And not only is he not only is he the most important character in the movie, he's the most iconic. And people remember him and like him for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's probably the most parodied thing from the whole movie.
It's really because Hal is the only distinct entity in the movie outside of the ship itself. The characters don't contribute anything, and the rest of the whole bloated mess contributes to nothing. That's why Hal is iconic, because he actually does something, thus proving that you can have all the existentialism you want, but there still has to be substance. Hal is not only a symbol, but he's also a character too, and that's why he is remembered, whereas just the grass is not.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with him on that one.
Well, I agree. There weren't really any other iconic characters, but once again, I don't think they were supposed to be, because this wasn't about any certain characters. This was about the universe.
And yet, what do people remember? What do people care about? The character, the substance. The universe is a lovely and lofty concept, but if you've got nothing backing the universe, then it's just a word.
Well, what do you mean exactly by nothing backing the universe?
Well, I mean, you can just shout out, "It's the universe!" But when people think the universe, are they thinking anything from the movie? No, they're not.
Why not?
Alright, when I say the universe, what scene, what part of the movie comes to mind? And it can't be Hal, because Hal is his own universe almost.
The colored tunnel at the end.
That's not the universe.
I was going to say the part...
That was the monolith imparting the knowledge of the universe onto Dave.
I was going to say the part where the planets line up.
So that is the universe. One scene, two scenes, out of a movie of 2.5 hours.
No, not... You have to take the whole thing into consideration, not just one or two scenes. If you want to go that way, like I said, the beginning black screen too. So, even though that's still not the scene that comes to mind when. So
once again, existentialism does not actually apply here. People remember the character because he has substance. People remember scenes that actually have marginal meaning, like the planets lining up. People actually have a memory of something happening, which is that tunnel. So once again, all these lofty scenes, the black screen, the E track, which we need to get to at some point, all of that counts for nothing, apparently. Just like I said.
Nothing. Just because people don't remember it, then that's their own faults.
You yourself just said, when I said, what does the universe mean, which is the sum total of the movie, you did not say it was the E track. You did not say it was the black screen. You did not say anything existential. You chose something that did exist, that did have substance.
You know, because you said when you say the universe, what comes to mind from the movie. That doesn't mean define the universe. That means what scene defines the universe.
Exactly.
She's right. You did ask. She's right. You did ask for something specific from the movie, so that question was kind of loaded.
But it still proves my point, though.
No, it doesn't. How does it prove your point? You just disproved your point because you contradicted yourself.
Not exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we'll let the viewers decide that. But more importantly, what is your justification for the scene where those astronauts are walking towards the monolith and the E-track plays? That scene goes on. Suspense is one thing, but it takes them about 5 minutes to get there.
And plus, that is another scene that's really well shot.
Where they're walking towards the monolith?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, about the E-track, I have noticed that there have been several moments where that where it appeared. Like, at the beginning of the movie, when the apes first see the monolith, basically, whenever the monolith appears, the E-track comes up. But I also noticed that it came up when Hal was when Dave was trying to dismantle Hal and it wasn't working.
Did it come up during that scene? I didn't notice that. I didn't realize it came up during that scene. I didn't notice that.
Well, not that scene where he was going like, "I'm sorry, Dave, but I can't let you do that." And then you do.
I thought it was just total silence during that scene.
Oh.
No, the only scenes I really noticed that the E-track during were just when the astronauts were walking towards the monolith, the beginning part with the apes, and then when Dave was actually going through the colored tunnel.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do have to kind of side with John that the E-track does kind of get old after a while. Like what I said earlier, Stanley Kubrick does take that theme and just ram it into the ground. And this is kind of a thing that he's done before. Like he did before with Eyes Wide Shut and other movies. Like it's nice at first, but after like the 5th time, it gets kind of old.
And then you got to take it as from a moviegoer's perspective, because this is where I'm trying to impart. My position here is you went to see this movie for the first time. It's not existed yet, so you have no reason to think it's good. That's what I'm saying. If you walked into a movie theater, went to see 2001: A Space Odyssey, and heard that E-track, would you like it? Forget everything that's been said about the movie. You've never seen it.
Would I like the movie or the E-track?
Would you like to
if you just sat there for 3 minutes and with a black screen and just that E-track is what you're asking?
Exactly. Like,
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't know what to expect, because what can you make from that?
I would be even more curious, and I would stay.
Yeah, we can believe that. See, this is what I'm thinking.
Especially if I went to the theater to see it, I spent my money, so I would stay also for that reason.
In some respects, could that be why 2001 actually got the viewership it did? People just didn't want to leave. Because when you think about it, we now look at 2001 as this great, epic film, but that's because we've been told that it's this great, epic film. If people today went back and saw 2001 for the first time without ever hearing of it before, I bet it would not have the level of appeal that it seems to have.
Okay, then
and
how come the original people said it was so good then?
Not
if everyone says it's so good, then obviously that had to start from somewhere.
But then we got to ask ourselves, who is everyone? You got to remember when it came out, it had a very mixed reception.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, if no one liked it, then how can everyone like it?
Well, like I said earlier in the podcast, the reason why I think people think they like it, because people are told that it's good. But what
I'm saying is, who tells them it's good if no one likes it?
The critics.
Exactly, there's that.
Then how come the critics like it?
Because many movie critics are into that sort of esoteric filmmaking, because they're used to seeing the same old films released over and over again. This was something that was different to them, not to us, the general public. And in many respects, the film itself doesn't deserve the level of fame that it has. And in fact, I would say it almost doesn't, in a realistic sense, have the level of fame, because I will bet you this, that all the people who say the film is good don't really know it's good because they haven't actually seen it. I used to say that 2001 was good. When I used to when I read the Wikipedia article many, many years ago, I was like, how can anybody think this movie is bad? They probably just didn't get it. And then when I saw it, I felt betrayed because I expected it to be more than it was.
Maybe
Yeah,
you're just expecting something different when you went into it. Maybe you need to watch it again.
I've already watched it twice. I don't think repeated viewing is going to help.
Third time's a charm.
Well,
Okay, it does take a very different approach to this. Like Stanley Kubrick himself said that that he went into this with the intent of shooting this and making this and writing this in a way that no other movie has done. In that way, he did succeed because at that time there wasn't really any other movie like it. I mean, some people didn't get the new approach, some did. But there have been other movies like the first Star Trek movie that tried the same thing, and a lot of people thought that was a snore fest. But
I have to say that the first Star Trek movie I didn't get through because I did find it extremely boring.
and in many respects, would that not prove my point? That existentialism does not a good movie create.
I mean,
What does existentialism have to do with Star Trek?
Because it tried to be existential like 2001 and failed.
Okay, if you want to have existentialism in your movie, that's great. But have something to back it up. If you're going to have existentialism for existentialism's sake, then what's the point?
Exactly, and I will actually retract my previous statement that Tree of Life might have been better, because Tree of Life was existentialism for existentialism's sake, whereas 2001 at least tried to have substance. It had Hal trying to shore up a very shaky premise of the universe, the movie. You also got to take a step back, because we're talking about general scenes, but we haven't talked about the movie as a whole. See, if you're an audience member, never having heard of 2001 before, are you actually going to even know what's going on as you watch this movie?
Well, I guess,
and I
mean, why not? Because you're supposed to interpret it.
You're supposed to interpret it, but if you're shown a wall and then you're shown something on the other side of that wall, how are you supposed to know those two go together?
Well, there's more than a wall on the other side of the wall. There's a lot more to it than that.
I mean, I do agree that there are some elements of the movie that I think people delve way too deep into, like the blank screen with the E track. I think people are kind of digging too deep into that, and it does kind of turn me off how people are trying to interpret every little iota, every little nuance. Like they'll be saying, like, "Look, there's a glass on that table. What does it mean?"
Exactly, and that doesn't. Can it mean anything? That's my question.
I think certain things can mean something. Like I didn't try to give some huge meaning to the E track. It just builds suspense. Some things there are simple, but it doesn't mean that other things, even if they seem relatively minor, don't have some other meaning to them. And once again, it's all left up to your own interpretation of it. Maybe to some people they wouldn't have any meaning, but others, since it's all left pretty ambiguous, why not interpret it in a certain way?
So how does this make a good movie, though? I mean...
Okay, John, you said earlier that this is basically the universe, the movie. I think
that's what it's trying for, at least.
I think a better title would be called Symbolism, the movie.
Both work. The universe can be a symbol.
Yeah. But like I said earlier, people are trying to find symbols in like every single thing, and there are like millions of interpretations of how this movie translate. And there are like no two people fully agree on what the movie is supposed to mean, which is why there is so much division about the movie itself.
See, that's another thing. That's another reason why I think you're wrong, John, in that this movie isn't actually as popular as people make it out to be. If it has that much influence, then obviously there's something to that. If that many people want to debate the movie and discuss it and make their own theories about it, doesn't that say something for its lasting appeal?
I suppose, but then again, people still complain about Ed Wood, so it's not it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No, but they're not
I mean,
complaining about 2001. They're debating it and discussing it.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be something in there that really resonates with people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Exactly.
Well, we could even examine our motivations for talking about it. I mean, we
Sure,
can take
let's
it that
do that.
far. I mean, I'm talking about it because I'm saying this movie is undeserving of its reputation.
And Opal is here because she thinks it is.
Exactly.
And I'm here because I think there are some good things about it and some bad things about it. I'm like, it's like John's the prosecutor, Opal is the defense attorney, and I'm the jury.
Exactly, but we're not really trying to interpret the movie, though. We're trying to interpret the belief around the movie.
No, that's not. How's that the case? We've tried to interpret the movie a lot, even as far as
Yeah, but that's not really why. It's not really what we're truly discussing. We're talking about certain scenes, yes, but it's the movie as a whole that's really on trial almost. I'm trying to say that it fails as a movie. You're trying to say it succeeds as a movie, and it's just it doesn't really succeed as a movie. That's the bottom line.
Why does it not?
Well, here's a good example: the multicolored flashy lights. Watching that, I had no idea what was going on. It doesn't tell me what's going on. I knew what was going on because
you're supposed to interpret it as your own thing. That's why it's ambiguous. You're supposed to interpret it.
Okay, so movies without a plot are now good. That's basically what you have to...
No. It has a plot. A lot of the plot, though, you're supposed to just interpret because it's ambiguous.
Well,
that's subtlety and symbolism.
Then in a movie with no plot...
And that's the problem. And that's the problem. It's just that. It's symbolism with no ground. Like I said, everybody has a different interpretation about it. Everybody has a different answer about what everything means, which is why there's so much division about it. I mean, the scene from the apes could be interpreted as like the dawn of evolution. It could be interpreted as like a retelling of the Cain and Abel story. Or it could be, I don't know, West Side Story with monkeys and a giant monolith. We're never told. And it's okay to have vague symbolism every once in a while or when it's appropriate. But just having vague symbolism for the sake of vague symbolism is lazy.
Exactly. I mean, you could then make the argument that The Room is a good movie, that everything in that is just a symbol for something, that it's your interpretation as to, is this a plot hole or is this not? Or like Transformers 2, because I know everybody loves that movie. Why don't we look for symbolism in that? Why don't we interpret it a certain way? That makes it good, right? I mean, we don't have to be told anything.
No, but
the giant robot's falls is a symbol for economic sanctions.
Because that's the problem.
I don't think Michael Bay is smart enough to do anything like that. He's only smart enough to make people want to kill themselves when they sit in a theater and watch one of his movies. Anyway.
Well, but still, we're applying 2001 logic to it because in order
but you're not supposed to because that's not what Michael Bay wants. That's not what the movie was supposed to be.
How do I know? I don't know. What if I don't know who Michael Bay is? Then what?
Then that's your own fault. So there.
Well, then it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, but 2001 and Transformers 2 are two completely different movies. They're incompatible.
Yeah, but if we're asked to interpret non-plot, then that should be generalizable to anything. I mean...
No, because Transformers...
Okay, but here's the thing. All right, here's the thing. 2001 is asking us to interpret everything. Transformers 2 doesn't ask us to interpret anything at all. It just shows...
It shows us
it just shows us a robot
Shia LaBeouf scene and robot scene with stupid dialogue. It explains everything to us.
But how do we know it's not? See, that's the thing. We don't know.
What? I just said it is explaining everything.
Yeah, but what if those explanations are wrong? I mean,
no,
here's the thing.
Because the movie is saying they're right. So in the context of the movie, they're right. The movie isn't lying to us.
But what if the movie is asking us to look beyond what they're saying?
There's no sign of that.
But it isn't.
There is.
But here's the thing, though.
That's the thing.
In 2001,
It's asking us. Never mind. You go ahead.
I was going to say, with 2001, there's only so much interpretation that can be made. We see Dave's pod go to the monolith, and then all of a sudden, here's this multicolored tunnel.
That is the monolith imparting the knowledge on him. He went to the monolith, and we know the monolith tells people things. It gives knowledge.
We
so
don't
it makes
really
sense
know
that he's now... What?
We don't really know that. And if he's...
That's another thing that we're supposed to interpret.
Yeah,
Subtlety.
but I didn't interpret that. In fact,
that's
it looks like he's traveling somewhere. He ends up in that weird netherscape thing.
I think it's both imparting the knowledge of the universe to him, and he's going through a sort of time warp through the universe type thing. Why can't it be both?
Also,
and then he turns it. And then he turns into a space fetus.
What's that? What is that supposed to mean? I can only interpret so much. If you just flash a leaf and then a car, how the hell am I supposed to know what that is supposed to mean?
It's supposed to mean that we're killing nature with cars.
Okay.
She's got a point there.
What if it's a healthy leaf? Then what?
Then we're killing healthy nature with bad cars.
It depends on the car. Is that an SUV or a Prius?
I don't know, John. What type of car?
Doesn't matter. You don't get to know what kind of car it is. It's just a car.
Well, you can't see the car without knowing what type of car it is. What color? Maybe if it's red, that symbolizes blood and evil.
You don't need a color. You just need an image and an image,
well,
and you're supposed to figure out.
There has to be something in the image.
Well, all right. Then explain this. What's the purpose of the old man eating so long? What's the whole purpose of that final 20 minutes of an old man eating, a guy shuffling around, and then space fetus? What is that?
Yeah,
what is the point of
really,
this? And how am I supposed to interpret that from space?
I mean, what was the space fetus? Was that Dave in, the final step of evolution? Or was it just some random space fetus that didn't show up until the last 3 minutes?
The time warp thing, I don't completely know about that, honestly.
Okay, I mean, that is...
Just because I can interpret a lot of things, John, about it, doesn't mean I can interpret every single thing, so, yeah.
I mean, that's the main problem. It asks you to interpret every single minute thing.
I mean, that is him just traveling through time and space, though. I mean, it goes...
Who, Dave?
Yeah. That's also what the tunnel was. Not only the monolith imparting the knowledge onto him, but him traveling through time and space, and that's why he also saw himself as an old man.
But that's not it's not an entertaining movie. It's an old man eating.
It's entertaining to some people.
That's
it's not just an old man eating. It's
the universe eating, right? It's stars. He's eating stars, sprinkled with frosting, which is life.
Star Crunch, part of this complete breakfast.
Exactly.
Buy now and get free enlightenment.
Yeah, if you eat this, you turn into a big, healthy space fetus.
Well, then maybe it was a good thing he ate it, because then he was younger than he was before, so there. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. I don't know how to interpret that scene. I don't know. But I do have to wonder, though, what do you guys think? Do you think Hal knew what the monolith was exactly?
No. I don't think so.
There's no way to know. He was on screen for 30 minutes.
No, I think he did know what it was, and that's why he killed the whole crew. Because he knew that their human minds couldn't take the knowledge of the whole universe without it basically crushing their minds.
She has a good point there. I never really thought about it, but that does make sense.
I think whatever the old man was eating turned him into a space fetus. I want some of that stuff. I want to be a space fetus.
That has nothing to do with Hal. We're talking about Hal right now. We're not talking about the old man anymore.
No, I'm just making this massive logical leap, just like you are. I mean,
what do you mean logical leap? That makes sense.
There is no way for us to know that.
No,
you cannot
make that leap. Hal knew that because he was smarter than the humans. He even made the comment about how all the errors, something about how every error that happened was due to human error, and that the HAL computers had a perfect history as far as making errors. They never made any sort of error. He knew that humans wouldn't be able to take the knowledge of the entire universe, so because of that, he didn't want them to screw up this huge thing. So he had to kill the entire crew because he was the only capable one. In his mind.
I thought he was actually kind of afraid of being shut down because to him, he's this supercomputer, and being shut down to him is like the equivalent of like being put down. So you could say that it was all self-defense.
I agree with that because that's what we see in the movie. That's what we can see.
He's afraid of being shut down once the threat of being shut down actually presents itself.
Yeah, but he gets shut down before he's presented to the monolith, and nothing really happened when Dave found the monolith. He just turned into a space fetus.
No, what happened was the knowledge of the universe was imparted onto him, and he traveled through time and space, and saw himself as an old man, and then a fetus. It was a full circle.
Okay, why does Hal want to kill people for that? How dare you become a space fetus?
Hal knew that human minds couldn't take the information of the entire universe.
How did he know that?
Because he's a supercomputer.
Where did he learn it?
He just...
It's programmed into him.
Oh, that's some oddly specific programming. Okay, universe.
It's science
Humans
fiction,
cannot
man.
understand it. How do we know that? Because...
he is more advanced than humans.
Okay. He has to learn it from somewhere. He can't just divinate it. He's not the god machine.
He kind of is. Because he's like this ultra advanced computer that's like whenever we think of like supercomputers or like robots in general, we think of these cold calculating machines that are built entirely on logic. But Hal is capable of free thought and
emotion. We saw that when he was being shut down. And I have to say that is one of the best scenes of the whole movie, when he's shut down.
And he's even capable of lying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the scene with him being shut down is a very well done scene with a lot of emotion to it, actually.
I agree with that.
Now he just repeats the same couple of lines over and over again, and he gets annoying after a while. But anyway.
How does it get annoying? That was a perfect scene.
Perfect as in mind-blowingly annoying.
How was it annoying? Tell me, how was it annoying?
If I kept repeating, I can feel it about 20 times, you'd be annoyed, wouldn't you? I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Well, you know, maybe there should be context, and there was context, and he was also saying other stuff.
Such as?
That he was afraid, so...
I can feel it, I'm afraid. I can feel it, I'm afraid.
He was,
He was begging Dave for mercy.
Yeah, exactly. He was trying to talk Dave out of it, and then, eventually, enough of his memories melted away that he went back to when he was first created, talking to the people who had programmed him, and, you know, the whole Daisy part, and all that.
So it's like he was aging backwards.
Yes.
But, okay, then we can existentially say that both Dave and Hal went on the same universal journey.
You know
Dave...
what? Maybe we can. Hey, that's a thought. I haven't thought
Yeah.
of it, but hey.
That's a good point.
That is, John. Thank you.
That still does not make a good movie.
About 2001, the movie you hate. Awesome.
That still does not make a good movie, though. We don't know that. All I hear in my ear is, I can feel it, I'm afraid. All I can see is an old man eating. That's it.
No, it's not just these simple images. You have to look more at it. There's a bigger picture.
It's the E-track.
Alright, I think we should wrap this up. Alright, so my final conclusion, see it for yourself and see what you make of it.
My final statement on the movie is this. When you watch it, you're going to be disappointed. It sounds really good as we talk about it, but when you actually go to sit and see it, it's every bit as boring as I said it was. What you need to think about doing is having a book open nearby, maybe some sort of game to play, because damn is this movie so
maybe that's the problem, John. Maybe that's the problem. The times you watched it, you were playing goddamn Super Smash Brothers. If you had maybe paid attention to it a bit more, maybe you would have been able to interpret it. Maybe. Well, maybe
Okay,
you would pay
your
more
final thoughts,
attention
Opal?
to E. I say you can't go into it expecting a simple movie. You have to go into it with an open mind and understand that there's a lot of symbolization and interpretation and ambiguity, but you have to go into this movie expecting that because no one's ever said otherwise. No one's ever said it's just a movie about them going to Jupiter. There's more to it than that. You have to go into it with an open mind. That's key. And plus, there are some simple to understand parts, like Hal. Hal is awesome. You have to respect it just because of the influence it's had for years and years.
Okay. Alright, my final thoughts. See it for yourself. Make your own interpretation. If you like it, that's great. If not, move on. For me, once was enough.
And my final word is, Mother, Brother, I have finally reached the door to December. Interpret it!
Tree of Life was a lot worse than 2001. You haven't even seen Tree of Life, so shut up. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that about wraps up this installment of the Men in Black Reviews Film Club podcast. I'd like to thank General Lotz for being such a good sport.
Mother, Brother.
And tune in next week when we discuss A Clockwork Orange.